Seated postures. So when we come into a seated position, one thing that is really important to understand about is our pelvis. So as it refers to forward bends in standing is the same as when we come to seated. In fact, it can be even harder in seated. So it's really important to know, what is my pelvis doing and what do I need to do to help my pelvis and my forward bends? So there's two basic kinds of pelvis movement. There's a posteriorly tilting pelvis and an anteriorly tilting pelvis. So some people have more posterior tilt, some people have more anterior tilt. Obviously, we're somewhere in the middle of both most of the time. So if we have a posteriorly tilting pelvis, that means that our tailbone is tucking under and we're sitting on the back edge of our sit bones. That means when we come into a forward bend, most of the movement is going to be coming from the spine unless we do something to help our pelvis. If we have more of an anteriorly tilting pelvis, then it's easier then to come into a forward bend from this hip hinging. So I can come forward, I've got quite an anteriorly tilting pelvis, I can come forward more easily than someone that had more of a posteriorly tilting pelvis. There's lots of different things that make up a more challenging or less challenging forward bend. Hamstrings, just tight in the back body would be a main thing, but we can certainly help by understanding what kind of pelvis we have naturally and what we can do to just adjust the position. So if you know that you have more of a posteriorly tilting pelvis, so you're sitting more on the back edges of the sit bones, one thing that is really helpful is to sit on a block. So you can just take a block underneath your hips. If you haven't got a block, then a pillow, and you can then see, so for me now, I know that I can more easily come forward because I'm now more on the front edges of my sit bones than I was before. So for some people, just sitting up on a block is really helpful and more than enough. The other thing that we can do to help ourselves in sitting is to bend the knees. So if we bend the knees, same thing, I'm now more on the front edges of my sit bones. So the restrictions that I might have in the back of my legs are going to affect the position less. So as I come forward, I'm coming forward more from my hips than my spine. So it's not that we shouldn't forward bend from our spine. It's healthy for our spine to flex. It's just we don't want to be doing it all of the time. And ideally, if we're coming into a forward bend, we want more of it coming from the hips than from the spine. So try those things in your practice this week and let me know how you get on.